Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the glamorous, treacherous, and endlessly captivating world of Los Angeles fashion. Today is a thrilling day to unpack the explosive dynamics shifting the balance of power as we explore the darkest and most compelling corporate war we have seen in years. The landscape of Los Angeles is undergoing a seismic, unprecedented transformation that threatens to permanently alter the hierarchy of the fashion industry. For years, the glittering towers of Forrester Creations have stood as an impenetrable fortress of haute couture, a monument to familial legacy, and, more recently, a testament to the unchecked executive hubris of Steffi Forrester Finnegan. But the foundation of this empire is cracking, not from an unpredictable external market force, but from a deeply personal, meticulously orchestrated retaliation. The epicenter of this impending earthquake is none other than Hope Logan, a woman who has spent her entire adult life playing the role of the diplomatic, forgiving, and endlessly patient martyr. Those days of quiet suffering and turning the other cheek are officially over. A new era is dawning, one drenched in the intoxicating allure of absolute power and ruthless vengeance. The catalyst for this dark metamorphosis is a man who knows exactly how to weaponize a broken heart. The infamous, calculating, and relentlessly ambitious Bill Spencer. To understand the sheer magnitude of the nightmare descending upon Forrester Creations, one must first dissect the psychological breaking point of Hope Logan. For years, Hope has endured a systematic, condescending marginalization at the hands of Steffi Forrester. She has watched her beloved brand, a line built on positivity, inclusivity, and her own blood, sweat, and tears, be treated as a disposable afterthought. Steffi's latest mandate, to indefinitely pause Hope's line in favor of Eric Forster's couture, was not merely a business decision. It was a profound, personal insult delivered with a mocking challenge. When Steffi looked Hope in the eye and dared to ask her what she was going to do about it, she unknowingly signed the death warrant of her own undisputed reign. In that suffocating moment of executive arrogance, the sweet, accommodating Hope Logan was entirely eradicated. In her place, a radicalized, furious, and deeply disillusioned woman emerged, ready to burn down the very institution she once fought so desperately to elevate and protect. Watching this tragic disintegration from his high-rise vantage point is Bill Spencer, a corporate predator who possesses an unparalleled instinct for sensing vulnerability and exploiting it for maximum devastation. Bill has recently reveled in the monumental, global success of Katie Logan's debut fashion collection, a triumph that proved the Logan name could hold its own against the Forrester legacy. But Bill's ambition is never satiated by mere success. He craves absolute domination. As he observed the escalating hostility between Steffi and Hope, a chillingly brilliant realization washed over him. Hope Logan was not just a talented designer looking for a new home. She was the ultimate, weaponized key to completely dismantling Steffi's empire. Bill recognized the raw, untapped reservoir of rage simmering beneath Hope's angelic exterior, and he knew precisely how to channel that fury into a catastrophic force of nature. The meeting between Dollar Bill Spencer and a newly radicalized Hope Logan is a masterclass in psychological manipulation and seductive corporate strategy. Bill does not approach Hope with a standard employment contract. He approaches her with a manifesto of destruction. He offers her an unprecedented, limitless well of capital, providing unfettered financial backing to build a rival fashion empire at Logan that will directly, mercilessly compete with Forrester Creations. He paints a vivid, intoxicating picture of a future where Hope is no longer begging for scraps of funding or fighting for basic respect from a condescending rival. Instead, she will be the undisputed queen of her own domain, armed with the financial artillery to crush the very people who dismissed her. Bill validates her anger, stokes the fires of her resentment, and meticulously grooms her to view this not as a mere career transition, but as a righteous crusade for absolute vindication. Under Bill's dark and masterful tutelage, the transformation of Hope Logan is both mesmerizing and profoundly terrifying. She is rapidly mutating into a female manifestation of Dollar Bill himself, becoming cold, calculating, uncompromising, and ruthlessly decisive. The soft-spoken diplomacy that once defined her interactions is replaced by a chilling, razor-sharp edge. She no longer seeks compromise. She demands total capitulation. Bill teaches her the art of the ruthless strike, the necessity of emotional detachment in business, and the intoxicating thrill of absolute victory. Hope absorbs these lessons with a terrifying hunger, shedding her naive, people-pleasing persona like dead skin. This new Hope does not cry over paused fashion lines. She orchestrates hostile takeovers and plots the downfall of her enemies with a terrifying, unblinking focus. She is a woman forged in the fires of Steffi's arrogance, now wielding the sword of Spencer's billions, and she is prepared to swing it with devastating precision. Watching this dark evolution unfold with mounting horror is Liam Spencer. The irony of Liam's current nightmare is palpable and deeply tragic. He was the one who initially planted the seed of defection, actively encouraging Hope to leave the toxic environment of Forrester Creations and join Katie's new venture. He envisioned a healthy, supportive workplace where Hope could thrive creatively without the constant shadow of Steffi's bullying. He never, in his darkest nightmares, anticipated that his own father would co-opt this transition and morph the woman he loves into a ruthless, vengeance-driven corporate raider. Liam is now trapped in a state of paralyzing terror, witnessing the angelic woman he has idolized for years slowly dissolve into a mirror image of the father he has spent his entire life trying to differentiate himself from. He sees the coldness in Hope's eyes, the calculated smirk when she discusses market share, and the chilling ease with which she now embraces cutthroat tactics. Liam's internal conflict is agonizing and deeply complex, tearing at the very fabric of his conscience. He desperately wants to support Hope's empowerment and her absolute right to fight back against Steffi's relentless marginalization. Yet, he knows firsthand the corrosive, soul-destroying nature of Bill Spencer's mentorship. Liam has spent decades fighting to protect his own moral compass from his father's corrupting influence, and now he must watch helplessly as Hope willingly surrenders hers in exchange for power and revenge. He tries to intervene, to remind Hope of the core values of integrity and compassion that built her original brand, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. Hope views Liam's concerns not as love, but as weakness, the exact same weakness that allowed Steffi to walk all over her for years. The emotional chasm between Liam and Hope widens with every strategic meeting she holds with Bill, leaving Liam isolated and terrified of the monster his father is creating out of the love of his life. While Hope focuses on building the creative and structural foundation of her new, heavily funded empire, Bill Spencer is busy orchestrating the Shadow War, a relentless, dirty, and highly destructive campaign of corporate sabotage designed to bring Forrester Creations to its knees. Bill is not content with simply outcompeting Steffi on the runway. He wants to publicly humiliate her, destroy her legacy, and financially ruin her company. To achieve this unprecedented level of destruction, he is meticulously preparing a massive media smear campaign aimed directly at Steffi's reputation and her competence as an executive. Utilizing his vast, far-reaching media conglomerate, Spencer Publications, Bill plans to leak damaging, carefully manipulated narratives about Steffi's erratic leadership, internal company chaos, and the creation of a toxic work environment. He intends to paint her not as a visionary CEO, but as an unstable, nepotistic tyrant whose personal vendettas are actively destroying the legendary house of Eric Forrester. The ultimate goal of this vicious, calculated media assault is to trigger a catastrophic collapse of Forrester Creations' stock value. Bill knows that the global fashion industry is built entirely on perception, and if he can shatter the illusion of stability and brilliance of Forrester, the investors will flee in absolute panic. He is utilizing every dirty trick in his extensive, ruthless arsenal, from hiring corporate spies to leveraging anonymous sources and manipulating financial journalists to craft a narrative of impending doom for the legendary fashion house. This is the Spencer way, total, unmitigated warfare that leaves nothing but scorched earth in its wake. Bill is weaponizing the very media empire that has historically protected the Forresters, turning it into a relentless battering ram aimed directly at the gates of Steffi's kingdom. And the most terrifying part of this entire operation is that Hope, previously a champion of ethical business practices, is fully aware of these underhanded tactics and is granting her tacit, icy approval. Back at Forrester Creations, the atmosphere is one of chilling, arrogant ignorance that borders on the absurd. Steffi Forrester Finnegan remains comfortably perched on her executive throne, completely oblivious to the catastrophic storm gathering just beyond the horizon. She interprets Hope's silence and eventual departure not as a strategic retreat or the gathering of an opposing army, but as a total, humiliating surrender. Steffi's executive hubris has profoundly blinded her to the reality of the situation. She truly believes she has finally broken Hope Logan and secured her undisputed dominance over the company. She continues to prioritize Eric's couture, dismissing any lingering concerns about the lost demographic, confident that the Forrester name alone is enough to sustain their market share indefinitely. This tragic, deep-seated overconfidence is the exact vulnerability that Bill and Hope are relying on to execute their lethal, company-ending strike. The only person within the Forrester walls who senses the impending doom is Carter Walton. Acting as a modern-day Cassandra, Carter has delivered dire, prophetic warnings to both Ridge and Steffi about the devastating consequences of their recent, arrogant decisions. He has explicitly reminded them of the past corporate coup, a dark chapter in the company's history fueled by the exact same brand of executive arrogance that Steffi is currently displaying with reckless abandon. Carter knows that pushing a key asset like Hope into the arms of a rival is an act of corporate suicide, especially when that rival is backed by the limitless coffers of Spencer money. He can see the writing on the wall, the shifting of the power dynamic, and the terrifying potential of a fully weaponized Hope Logan. But his desperate warnings are brushed aside by Steffi's stubbornness and Ridge's passive, avoidant leadership, leaving Carter to helplessly watch the ship steer directly toward the iceberg. Ridge Forrester is caught in a paralyzing state of denial and conflicting loyalties that prevents him from protecting his own legacy. He has begun to realize, with a sinking feeling of dread, that he has enabled Steffi to transform into an executive monster who alienates top talent for sport. He sees the undeniable cruelty in her treatment of Hope, but his paternal instinct and his deep-seated aversion to conflict prevent him from taking the decisive action required to rein her in. Ridge is terrified of the escalating war, not just for the sake of the company's survival, but for the survival of his own marriage. He knows that Brooke is fiercely protective of Hope and is already contemplating a hostile takeover for Steffi's co-CEO seat. Yet, Ridge is trapped between his daughter's blind ambition and his wife's maternal vengeance, completely unaware that the true threat is no longer an internal power struggle, but an external, apocalyptic assault orchestrated by Bill Spencer and executed by a radically transformed Hope. The collateral damage of this unprecedented corporate warfare is already beginning to tear the Logan family apart at the seams. Donna Logan serves as the tragic, silent observer, watching in absolute horror as the sister she has spent her entire life protecting turn on each other in the ruthless pursuit of power and revenge. Katie's ambition to poach Hope for the Logan brand has fractured her bond with Brooke, who initially wanted Hope to stay and fight for her rightful place at Forrester. But as Hope embraces Bill's dark mentorship and prepares to launch her rival empire with Spencer money, the family dynamics become impossibly tangled and toxic. Donna desperately pleads for unity, terrified that Katie's ruthlessness and Brooke's retaliatory schemes are permanently destroying the familial love that has always been their greatest strength. The Logan sisters are no longer a united front. They're becoming generals in a war that threatens to consume them all. As the pieces fall into place anew, vengeful hope under Bill's mentorship becomes Forrester Creations' biggest, most insurmountable nightmare. This is no longer the hope who tries to win through sheer talent, hard work, and moral superiority. This is a hope who understands that in the brutal, unforgiving world of Los Angeles fashion, absolute power is the only currency that truly matters. She's armed with Bill's billions, Katie's successful new global platform, and a burning, unquenchable desire to see Steffi lose absolutely everything she holds dear. The combination of Hope's undeniable creative genius and Bill's ruthless, predatory business acumen creates an unstoppable juggernaut that no one at Forrester is prepared to face. They're not just planning to launch a successful fashion line. They're planning to systematically dismantle Forrester Creations, poach their top talent, steal their market share, and permanently destroy their public reputation. The stage is now set for a conflict of epic, unprecedented proportions that will shake the very foundations of the city. The battle lines have been drawn in ink, blood, and billions of dollars of Spencer capital. On one side stands the established, legacy-driven empire of Forrester Creations, weakened by internal arrogance and entirely blind to the approaching threat. On the other side stands a newly forged alliance of vengeance and unlimited resources, a radicalized, cold-blooded Hope Logan and the master manipulator himself, Dollar Bill Spencer. The impending war will test loyalties, shatter families, and redefine the landscape of the fashion industry forever. As Liam watches in paralyzing terror, as Steffi rests on her fragile, unearned laurels, and as Carter braces for the inevitable, catastrophic impact, the countdown to destruction has already begun. The era of forgiveness and diplomacy is dead. The era of the Spencer-Logan retaliation has arrived, and it promises to leave nothing but ashes in its wake. The silence of Sheila Carter is never a white flag of surrender. It is merely the quiet, suffocating stillness that precedes a catastrophic storm. For weeks, the residents of Los Angeles have been lulled into a terrifyingly false sense of security, believing that the notorious villainess had finally accepted her defeat. The canvas has been deceptively peaceful regarding her romantic obsessions, with Deacon Sharp and Taylor Hayes moving forward in their relationship, blissfully unaware of the shadow looming over them. However, behind closed doors, Sheila has been meticulously orchestrating one of the most diabolical and psychologically devastating plots in the history of the Forrester, Logan, and Spencer families. Her ultimate goal remains unchanged: to reclaim Deacon Sharp at any cost. But the method she has chosen to eliminate Taylor Hayes from the equation is a masterclass in cruelty, crossing lines that even seasoned observers of Sheila's reign of terror could never have anticipated. The nightmare begins with Taylor Hayes, a woman of immense intellect, professional prestige, and psychological fortitude, suddenly finding herself trapped in a terrifying labyrinth of her own mind. As a world-renowned psychiatrist, Taylor's entire identity is built upon her cognitive sharpness and her deep understanding of the human brain. Yet, over the past few weeks, she has been experiencing inexplicable and deeply alarming symptoms. It starts with minor lapses in memory, forgetting where she placed her keys, losing her train of thought mid-sentence, and missing scheduled appointments. Slowly but surely, the symptoms escalate into profound disorientation, emotional volatility, and terrifying moments of dissociation where she cannot recognize her own surroundings. For a woman whose mind is her greatest asset, this sudden cognitive decline is nothing short of a living nightmare. Taylor begins to secretly fear that she is developing early-onset dementia or a severe neurological disorder, a terror that eats away at her confidence and isolates her from those she loves most, including Deacon. Deacon, for all his genuine affection and desire to build a beautiful future with Taylor, remains tragically oblivious to the sinister root cause of her deteriorating condition. He watches with growing concern as the vibrant, brilliant woman he loves becomes increasingly fragile and confused. He attributes her struggles to the immense stress of her career, the ongoing family drama, at Forrester Creations and the natural anxieties of starting a new chapter in life. Deacon's blind hope for their future together makes him the perfect, unwitting pawn in Sheila's grand design. By isolating Taylor through her own induced paranoia and cognitive failure, Sheila ensures that Taylor will eventually push Deacon away, convinced that she is becoming a burden to him. Once Taylor inevitably breaks off the relationship to spare Deacon the pain of watching her decline, Sheila plans to swoop in, offering Deacon the familiar, toxic comfort he will desperately crave in his heartbreak. However, Sheila's meticulously crafted house of cards faces an unexpected and formidable threat in the form of Dr. John Finn Finnegan. As Taylor's son-in-law and a highly skilled physician, Finn possesses both the protective familial instinct and the medical expertise required to see through the fog of Sheila's deception. During a routine family gathering, Finn's sharp medical eye catches subtle, physiological anomalies in Taylor's behavior that do not align with natural cognitive decline. He notices the pinpoint dilation of her pupils, the slight, involuntary tremors in her hands, and the specific, sluggish cadence of her speech. His diagnostic mind immediately begins to race, cross-referencing her symptoms with his extensive knowledge of pharmacology and neurology. Finn realizes with a chilling certainty that Taylor's symptoms mimic the side effects of severe chemical intoxication rather than an organic disease. Driven by a desperate need to uncover the truth, Finn secretly arranges to run a comprehensive toxicology screen on a blood sample he discreetly obtains from Taylor during a supposed routine checkup. The days waiting for the lab results are agonizing, filled with a growing sense of dread that gnaws at Finn's conscience. When an encrypted file finally arrives from the laboratory, the results confirm his worst, most horrifying suspicions. Taylor is not losing her mind. She is being systematically poisoned. The toxicology report reveals dangerously high levels of a potent cocktail of psychotropic medications, specifically heavy sedatives, dissociative anesthetics, and off-label antipsychotics that, when combined, perfectly induce symptoms of severe memory loss, confusion, and psychological instability. It is a chemical lobotomy, administered slowly and deliberately,